not sure why it says preview not available, but that's fine. I haven't worn this thing in forever, so it feels ridiculous to me to have it on top of my head. So I'm going to wash my hands real quick. I'll get some stuff set up. We'll go through the normal process of making dots and stuff and go from there. Cool? Awesome. Every time I do this, all I can remember is that one of the very first times I posted a GoPro video on YouTube, people just like ripped me apart in the comments for how many paper towels I use to dry my hands.
I mean, but we're trying to have a sterile environment here.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that like I also would like to not waste paper towels, except if you've ever tried putting gloves on with wet hands, it's hilarious. And like you just end up tearing a glove half the time.
Yeah,
so like
hear the noise and to me,
it's not like there's not even a noise. You like can't even get them over your fingers. Like it's like it feels like you're like a toddler trying to put a glove on. There's actually no chance you're going to possibly get a glove on at that point. It's very funny. So instead, now I'm just prepared to get yelled at by like some 13-year-old on YouTube who's just like, you use too many paper towels. And I'm like, I'm aware I use too many paper towels. It's funny to me.
I know for me, I used to, like, especially when I first started getting piercing, that's all I did was sit on social media scrolling through people getting piercing. Because to me, that's the best way to actually, like, you know, learn about it before you get it done.
I still watch piercing videos on, like, YouTube and TikTok all the time.
Right before I'm getting these, I'm like, whoa, do I want to do Helix? Like, looking at them, I'm like, yes, I do.
I do it all the time. I started getting pierced before, like, video websites were a thing, so I didn't really get to do that. So, it's like...
Yeah, now it's easy. I just look at hashtag piercing.
Yes. Man. We had like low quality pictures on like BME back in the day where it's just like, you're like, cool, that was taken with like a potato. Like a Polaroid camera someone sent in and you're like, that looks so cool. I remember when I was younger, I picked a piercer. Like I chose someone that I wanted to pierce me purely because their portfolio was in black and white.
Oh, really?
And to me, that was like the coolest thing in the world, right? I was like, this guy has to be like super, super skilled. All his pictures are in black and white. This guy's like so cool. He like totally knows what he's doing, which is hilarious to me nowadays because now I understand that if your entire profile is in black and white, it just means you're hiding stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That means you don't see the swelling and the reaction afterwards.
Yes, but back then I was like, this is so cool.
Oh, that's so problematic now that you see it like that. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh.
It's okay. I mean, like the piercing he gave me was healed fine and worked out. I wanted a different piercing when I came in there. And I was like, you do an Ashley piercing? And he was like, I don't have the jewelry for that, but I can do this instead. And again, years later, I'm just like, you did not have the jewelry for it. You just didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, I got my first piercing at 16. I just got regular Helix. Genuinely.
Yeah, you can keep talking. I'm just going to clean stuff up.
Then,
is it cool if I had to wipe things down? Awesome. Cold for a second.
But obviously, I'm 16, so my mom had to take me, so she's like, no, you're going to do proper research, and you got to prove to me that you know what you're getting. So I'm like, all right, I got you. I went to Cherry Works, but she's not piercing anymore. So then I came here.
No, I think Hannah's like a yoga instructor now or something. I don't know. I haven't talked to her in years.
She's in her own like peaceful retirement of piercing. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, it's traumatic for her though. I feel bad. But she's a good piercer.
It's a relatively interesting industry full of people, so I get why people are kind of will hit a point where they're just like, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, it just you can tell it kind of hits for her. But I was like, oh, there's more piercings I want to get.
Yeah.
So I gotta find your place.
Well, I'm glad you found us here.
Yeah, I wish you guys were a little closer because I live in Maryland, but it's not too bad. It's worth the drive.
If you can avoid like the rush hour part of it, it's not terrible, but like it's atrocious in rush hour.
3, perfect. All right, I'm gonna go early and then I'll be there.
Do you want things pretty similar to the picture you showed me before? Because all of those spots will work on your ear.
Okay, unless you have a better suggestion.
Nope, I think they'll all work fine. Can you do me a favor though? Can you hold the mask to your face and take off the strap on the side? I want to look and see where your ear folds.
Yeah, I kind of fold
for the sake of the faux rook.
I can take my glasses off.
No, keep the glasses on actually. Yeah, because I want to see where they sit on the back of your ear.
I know it's not ideal for someone with glasses, but I would still like to try something.
Your ear works out well. You've got a pretty good amount of space back there that the glasses are not sitting on, so. You'll want to be a little bit careful with that, of course, when it's still a fresh piercing, just because like you're going to bump them with the glasses occasionally. But once we can downsize stuff, that problem goes away really fast, which is nice. I don't want to go too deep into your ear, because then we're really getting into an area where the glasses are going to be mad at us, but we can do it from there. And is your goal to have the two little beads like pretty close together, so that the two rings hug nicely? Okay.
Because I'm mimicking the style that lobes will have once I get another.
Yes, just like 2 tight little rings hanging. Cool. Let me make some dots then. So I want to keep them in like, if you can kind of feel like this dense part of the ear, I don't want to go through. But I would like to go through this like soft part here, because that's going to heal significantly better. So let's do like one like there about. So I might go a little bit higher than you were thinking before, but I will let you take a look in a second and see what I'm thinking here. I just want to make sure rings are still going to sit well if we do this. Can you look straight forward for a second? Thank you. Let me move those just a tad.
Never have it up and down. Then when someone says look up, I'm like, oh yeah, this thing should be up here.
That's okay. I do the same kind of thing, and I understand what people do if they're like in somewhere, because you're like, I'll just like hang my head and chill here for a second. But it's only really ever a difficult problem with sometimes I get like really anxious teenagers where they just kind of stare at their feet the entire time they're in here.
That was me. I know it.
Like, and I get that totally. But if you're staring at your head, like your feet the entire time, your ear's just pointing downwards. It's like, it makes my job a teeny bit more difficult. So I always have to be like, hey, can you bring your head up? But I always try to remind them, just like, I don't care about your posture. I'm not like your mom who's telling you to like, you know, sit up straight. I just like can't see your ear if you do that. All right, so don't touch please, because you'll smudge those dots super easily, but do you want to take a look at that and see how things feel to you? Let me know if you love it, you hate it.
Oh, they're cute. I like them.
Cool. Awesome. You can lay on back then. I'm going to take a second just to go ahead and clean you off with some iodine. Do you mind if I bobby pin, or actually alligator clip some of your hair back? Just so it's a teeny bit out of my way. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't cut my hair in months, so it's kind of doing its own thing right now.
That's okay. I just like pinning it out of the way. If you ever see people drape stuff on videos, which is like a pretty common thing you'll watch nowadays, draping of things will work for like tiny wispy hairs, but for like bigger hair or hair with more volume, it doesn't do anything, and the hair just like pushes the drape out of the way.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I feel like my curls would just be like, and then all the drape would be like, yeah.
Yeah, it's more comical than not, to be honest. Can you scoot your whole body towards me? Perfect, and head to your left. Awesome. I'm just gonna go ahead and finagle some of these clips onto your hair. And just see if I can kind of pin back some of this stuff out of our way a little bit. There we go. I'm just going to prep you with some iodine, the messiest substance in the known universe.
Yeah, it's always funny when you watch videos to see the iodine everywhere on other people.
I hate this stuff. I truly do.
I'm getting pierced, you don't realize how like much you guys put.
Yes. My favorite thing is, do you follow Colin on TikTok?
Yes.
I love that he always has to put the disclaimer that's just like, this is not blood, it's just iodine. I think it looks more orange on people's ears in person, but it does look kind of red on video. It's like, I understand where he's coming from there.
Yeah, the first time I ever got pierced, I knew not to drink caffeine, but of course when you're like anxiety, you're like, oh, I'm just nervous about getting it done. You don't think about some of the stuff that you have to do beforehand. And I had coffee, and I remember when I got pierced, there's like, I could feel a big drop of blood.
Yeah.
And then,
can I tell you a secret? You drinking caffeine didn't cause that.
Yeah. I'm like, I know that kind of gives you blood a little bit.
It really doesn't.
Okay, good. So I'm glad it wasn't that.
One of the biggest secrets in body piercing is that if a piercing bleeds, it has very little to do with you and almost everything to do with me. So anytime you hear someone who like got pierced sometime and is like, oh, like, I'm just a bleeder, that is almost never true. It's an excuse that people use sometimes if they don't really know what they're doing and they cause someone to bleed, but they're just like, oh, you're such a bleeder. But in reality, like, almost anytime someone bleeds, it is usually something the piercer either did wrong or could have done differently. Yeah. That's not to say that's like always the case, but like 90% of the time it is.
Yeah, it never happened to me after that first time.
Yeah.
Like every time I got pierced since then, it's only a person who's cleaning it with the cutsies and stuff.
Yep.
It's never like warrior.
Nah. One of my favorite things, honestly, is people that will like, they'll come in to get pierced, and they'll genuinely just be like, oh no, I'm such a bleeder, I always bleed. I'm like, you're not gonna bleed. And they're like, no, it happens every single time. And I'm like, you're not gonna bleed.
Does it feel like fitted on, like your first piercing to your ears? Like, what the heck is going on? So it doesn't.
Well, so most of the time what we're doing when we do a piercing is that we're making a hole and then we're plugging it immediately. Kind of the same way it would happen if you had like a hose that you like popped a hole into. You plug it up real quick, there's not really a chance for anything to come out of it. But if you make the hole a little bit wider than you meant to, or it's a little bit more jagged than it needs to be, then you're kind of in like problematic territory. And that's when things will bleed a bit. That can be caused by like, you know, poor technique, poor bracing, needles that are just lower quality are a bit rougher or harder to control, so they kind of move a bit more as they're piercing, which means you cause more damage than not. So like those are factors that can go into it. Now, if you woke up that morning and you pounded a bottle of ibuprofen, that will usually cause like a tiny bit more bleeding. And then there's some locations that bleed a bit more than others just because of where they are. So like genital stuff, by all means, like usually bleeds more, of course. Some like things in the face, like foreheads, if we're doing like surface piercings in the forehead, those almost always bleed a little bit.
I love to watch people get surface piercings. My mom really hates this, but I'm like, it's so interesting.
They look very intense, so I can understand my mom might not be the biggest fan.
I don't think I could commit to something like that, but it's so interesting to see.
The funny part is that they look super intense on people, but they're nowhere near as bad as people would imagine.
I don't think so either. I feel like it's like there's a balance to me between like how much do you want it and what are you willing to go through to get it. And
Yes.
that's not that high, and that was like anxiety or.
That's a fair way to look at it.
Because like, you know, with tattoos and stuff, people are like, oh, that hurts so much, why would you do that? But I'm like, if you want something bad enough, you're gonna do it again.
You're like, come on, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Bear with me a second. I'm going to go ahead and grab something real quick from my hidden stash of posts in my sterilized that someone's going to shame me for. And you know what? I don't need one of those. So I've just given away my secret for no reason. Alright, let me get everything all set for you here real quick, and then I'll walk you through things. And I'm guessing we're doing the 2 beads in the Helix piercings and the hammer disc in the flat, correct?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. I am going to give you space as far as swelling stuff goes, just so we can be on the safe side and make sure we're not going to have something that like puffs up like crazy. If for some reason they do swell up over that, reach out to us. You know how to find us. Otherwise, I'll send you home with some posts for downside safe today.
Sounds good. I normally send you a DM with like a little picture being like, hey.
That's totally fine, I'll say yeah. The kids out front will almost always answer those messages really quickly, so. Alright, if it's cool with you, I want to start inside first, so we'll do the faux rook first, and then we'll move out to the Helix piercings. Is that cool?
Yes.
Alright. I always love taking these videos sometimes because I'm like, I'm going to look at this later and nothing is going to be on film.
I'll laugh. I'll be like, well, we tried.
Alright, so obnoxious little drape for a second. Do you want to hop on the glasses off now? Thank you so much. Slide our funny little friend over there. So same as always, you know the deal. I'm going to line things up with pressure first. I'll tell you before the first bit of pinchiness there, and then we'll do big breath in, big breath out. On that exhale, we'll do the actual piercing. We'll slide our jewelry in afterwards. That's all. Cool with you? All right. So just a little bit of pressure here for a second. I'm going to kind of fold the ear out. I'm going to line things up in the front here. So tiny pinch first. Big breath in. Slow breath out. There we go. We're going to do a little bit of tight feeling for 2 seconds here. So first one right here. Take some pressure off. I'm going to get rid of pointy thing number 1. Put our post in from the back. So we're going to have, again, tightness for a second here, okay? Little tiny pinch. Get rid of pointy thing number 2. Put our hammer disc on, and then I'll grab everything for the next ones. Alright. Hanging in there still? Want to keep going?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. I didn't think you were going to like back out or anything, but I always like just check it in. Alright, and we'll do the exact same process. Alright, same thing, pressure first, and then we'll do the pinginess. Cool? Alright. I'm going to start up top here this time. So again, pinch for a quick second here. Big breath in when you're ready, and out. There we go. 2 slides once more. First one right here. Get rid of pointy thing number 1. One more slide, and again, kind of tight feeling for a second. Might feel a tiny pinch. Alright. Get rid of pointy thing number 2. One more, and I'll stop poking holes in you. Until you're back, yeah. For today, at least. We'll reevaluate in the future. Alright. Ready for number 3? Cool. So we're going to do the exact same thing. Pressure once more. Teeny pinch right here. Big breath in and out. And there we go. Same 2 little slides once again here. First one right here. Again, pointy thing number 1. And second of the 2 little slides right here. Get rid of our last sharp. I'm going to put the 2 beads on, and then we'll get everything all cleaned off. I always put the beads on last so I can see how the angles of the posts look. Some people do it each time.
I'll be worried that the post will just fly out. They'll just be like, you know what? Never mind.
Your ear's not like slippery. It won't go anywhere.
In my brain, I can just see the post falling.
No, it's not going to go anywhere crazy or anything like that. I'm going to push the faux rook back, so I'm just going to basically push this guy back a little bit, put some pressure on the back just to compress that tissue, and then hang out for a second. Let me get things cleaned off, and we are totally done. Alright. Not terrible?
Nope.
Cool.
Like, I always forget how it feels to get pierced, and then when after the first one, I'm like, yep, that is exactly what it is.
See, I forget how it feels to get pierced, and then I do one, and I'm just like, ugh, that's how it feels.
Yeah, right now I'm thinking, don't sleep on this.
Please don't.
That's the biggest thing. I don't touch them.
Good.
I do sometimes wake up and be like, oh.
Do you use a travel pillow, or have you ever tried using a travel pillow before?
Yeah, so last time I used a travel pillow, saved lifesavers.
Okay. This will be cold for a second.
I'm using the same thing.
So especially with outer rim helix piercings like this, travel pillow is like the most important thing you can possibly mention. There is probably nothing that will upset outer rim cartilage piercings more than being slapped on. Like, in my opinion, you could honestly sit there and like spin these things in your fingers every single day, and it would probably be a better thing to do to them than sleeping on them constantly. So that puts you in kind of an interesting paradox, because sleeping on them is really easy, and not sleeping on them is really hard.
Yeah, because it's like...
But it really pays off if you can do pretty good at like not doing that, honestly. It's tough, but it's really worth it.
I got a piercing pillow this time. I used a travel pillow last time and it worked fine. But I actually popped a hole in my travel pillow, like taking off the tag because it was bothering me.
You popped a hole in it?
Yeah.
What was it made of that you put a hole in it?
It had like it was super thin on the outside and it had the beads inside, so it just went...
Oh, you had like a beanbag style one. Okay.
This time I got a proper little deep donut piercing pillow, and I was like, yeah.
Cool. Alright. That's all that stuff. Do you want to pop the alligator clips out? You can keep them in if you want to. You can lay it down real quick. Lay it down real quick. I'm just going to pop them out real fast.
I forgot about this.
There you go. Now you can take a look
Yeah, I'm so excited. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now this ear is has to make it up for I have a pair.
It's always easy to start with the one side and then go from there, so. Okay, bye-bye, camera world.